just a word on matching gears. It's another important skill that really probably isn't taught as well as it could be. You want to, and this is for the absolute beginners out there, you want to listen to the engine. Don't be listening to music. And the most important thing in selecting a gear is that the engine doesn't lug. And what lugging means is that the RPM is too low for the gear that you're in. The engine will make a funny baritone noise and be like, whoa, you know, if you open the throttle up. And when you lug an engine, it's very hard on it. It can do damage, and it will wear your engine out prematurely. So just don't do it. To decide when to upshift, I mean, they give you, if you look in the owner's manual, they give you an idea, but those numbers are usually quite low actually. But I would say on most motorcycles, if you keep the RPMs, if you have an RPM gauge, which hopefully you do, if you keep them over 3,000, like around 3,500, then you'll be in the correct gear for the speed that you're going. Like, see, right now I am doing a little over 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and I'm at like 3,200 RPM. This is a large bore motorcycle. It's 1000 cc, so it can easily handle the lower RPMs. The smaller your engine is, the less likely it will like those low RPMs. You might want to go a little higher, like right around it at 4,000, 4,500 minimum. But this bike is just fine. Most 600s are okay, you know, with around 4,000 RPM. And the big bore strokers too, like a dual purpose bike would be fine with that too, I would imagine. I haven't ridden too many dual purpose for a long time on the street. And I rode lots of larger bore bikes off-road, you know, like 500 cc motorcycles off-road, and the four strokes have so much torque, but they don't have any RPM gauge, so you don't really know exactly what it's running at. Anyway, when you upshift, the RPM per gear drops. So, you know, you start off in first gear like I am here and run the motorcycle up to 3,500 or so shift per second. And the lower gears can actually handle a lower RPM than the higher gears. So right now I'm only at 2,500 RPM and it's fine. So I just leave it, you know, until I don't shift again until I hit about 3,500, which in this case I won't, because we're going to brake, so I never got out of the second gear. And, you know, downshifting, guys kind of ask about that sometimes too. Like, how do you downshift? Well, downshifting is exactly the same as upshifting, except that you give more throttle after the gear change instead of less throttle. So there's more wrist twist. and there's what you call compression braking, and the compression braking slows the, gives you braking on the rear wheel so that you don't have to use the rear brake pedal unless you want to or have a need to. I actually don't often use the rear brake, and that's largely because the engine braking just provides enough braking for me with using the front brake. When you brake hard, all the weight's transferred to, well, not all, but most of the weight is transferred to the front wheel. And so if you brake hard on front and rear at the same time, you can lock up the rear wheel. And if you're happen to be in a corner or need to swerve or something like that, and you let go of that brake, you'll high side. So, obviously you don't want to do that, so I recommend not using the rear brake so much unless it's panic stop, or you can use them both in coordination, with the front brake, but always brake more gently on the rear. In a panic stop, if you're going straight ahead, it's okay to lock the rear wheel, but if you do, you want to keep the rear wheel locked and keep the bike going in a straight path, which may not be ideal, right? Well, actually, if it is going in a straight path, you can let that brake off and the rear wheel will start spinning again, and you can be okay. It's just that if you get even the slightest amount of drift, it can throw you off the bike. So it's unpredictable, so that's why the experts recommend that you just keep the rear wheel locked if it happens to lock up on you when you're doing panic stop. Of course, ABS is a great feature, and if you have ABS, you can brake as hard as you want. You're not going to lock up the wheels. It's a superb feature for motorcyclists, and I highly recommend it. This motorcycle has ABS for safety reasons. I just, it doesn't weigh that much. It adds a little to the weight of the bike, but who cares? These things have so much power that, look at that. It's just absurd power. So who cares if it weighs another 18 pounds over the non-ABS version? I sure don't. And you don't notice it at all in the handling, and you don't notice the ABS until you actually panic stop, really. It just brakes like a regular motorcycle.